On Thanksgiving morning, as the sky slowly brightened over the frost-covered fields, Ethan Hale stepped out of his old farmhouse with a heavy heart. Holidays had become quiet ever since he lost his wife, Clara, 5 years ago. He had grown used to silence, but today it felt heavier than usual. As he walked toward the barn to feed the animals, he noticed something strange. His horse wasn't restless, and the door was halfway open, as if someone had slipped inside during the night. A flicker of unease crawled up his spine, urging him to check. Inside the barn, the weak light of dawn slipped through wooden slats, revealing a sight he never expected. Curled in the hay, wrapped in a tattered blanket, was a young woman, her face streaked with dirt and exhaustion. In her arms she held a tiny baby, bundled tightly against the cold. Ethan froze, startled by the fragility of the scene. The baby stirred, letting out a soft whimper, and the woman opened her eyes in fear. For a moment, Ethan didn't breathe, overwhelmed by the sudden shift in his quiet morning. The woman tried to sit up, clutching the baby close, her expression full of panic as if she expected to be thrown out immediately. Ethan raised both hands, speaking softly, trying to ease her fear. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, shivering despite the blanket. Her clothes were worn, her boots soaked, and her eyes held the kind of desperation that made Ethan's chest ache. He could see she wasn't dangerous, she was scared, cold, and trying to protect her child. Something inside him shifted. He knelt a few feet away, careful not to startle her. He asked her name, but she hesitated, clearly unsure if he was someone she could trust. When the baby started crying louder, her trembling grew worse. Ethan gently offered help, telling her she and the baby didn't need to be afraid. After a long pause, she whispered her name, Lena, and said she had been walking for days after leaving a place she never wanted to see again. Her voice cracked, and Ethan realized she was holding back far more pain than she was willing to share. Ethan helped her stand slowly, telling her she could come inside to warm up. She resisted at first, insisting she didn't want trouble. But Ethan shook his head, saying no one desperate enough to sleep in a freezing barn with a newborn was trouble. As they walked toward the house, the cold wind bit at them, and he gently supported her when her knees buckled. Inside, he lit the fire, wrapped her in a warm quilt, and heated milk for the baby. The way she watched him, with caution and disbelief, tugged at memories of Clara's gentle heart. As the fire crackled, Lena looked around as if she had stepped into another world. She admitted she had nowhere to go and no one waiting for her. Ethan didn't press further but noticed the bruises along her jaw and the way she flinched at sudden sounds. She seemed ready to vanish if she sensed the slightest danger. To reassure her, he said she and the baby could stay as long as they needed. For the first time, he saw her expression soften, the smallest hint of relief flickering across her tired face. While she rested on the couch, Ethan prepared breakfast, simple eggs, bread, and warm soup. The entire time, his mind raced with questions he didn't ask. He kept thinking about Clara, who had always opened her door to anyone hurting. Maybe this moment was a strange way life was giving him a chance to do the same. When he brought the food to Lena, she silently wiped her tears, overwhelmed by kindness she clearly wasn't used to. Ethan sat nearby, pretending not to notice, giving her space to breathe. As Lena fed her baby, she told him pieces of her story. She had run from the child's father, a man who grew dangerous after losing his job. His temper escalated into violence, and one night, fearing for her baby's safety, she fled with nothing but a blanket and a little money. The baby was only 3 months old, and she had been wandering, sleeping outside, surviving on strangers' leftovers. Ethan listened in silence, feeling anger rise at the cruelty she endured and sadness at how the world had failed someone so vulnerable. Hearing her speak, Ethan felt a protective instinct he hadn't felt in years. He told her she didn't have to explain more, that she and the baby deserved peace. She looked down, overwhelmed, saying she had been waiting for someone, anyone, to say those words. The storm of emotions in her eyes reflected her exhaustion, fear, and a deep yearning for safety. Ethan reached for a clean blanket, wrapping both her and the baby carefully. The warmth made her eyelids heavy, and gradually, she drifted into a peaceful sleep she hadn't had in months. While she slept, Ethan stepped outside to clear his mind. The cold air stung his cheeks, but he barely noticed. He couldn't shake the feeling that this Thanksgiving morning was no accident. Maybe he had been meant to find her. Maybe she had been meant to find him. The thought filled him with a strange sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. As he looked toward the barn, he whispered to himself that he would protect her and the baby, no matter what the cost. Lena awoke hours later, startled at first, but then calmed when she saw Ethan bringing more logs to the fire. The baby cooed in her arms, warmer and safer than he had been in weeks. For the first time since she arrived, her shoulders weren't trembling. Ethan asked if she felt better, and she nodded slowly, whispering that this was the first time she had felt safe in a long while. He smiled gently, reminding her that Thanksgiving was meant for giving shelter and gratitude, even to strangers who showed up unexpectedly. As the day passed, Ethan noticed how Lena's spirit flickered between hope and fear. She offered to leave several times, worried she was imposing, but Ethan refused to let her go. He told her she needed rest, the baby needed warmth, and the farm had plenty of space. His steady kindness made her eyes water each time. She confessed that most people had ignored her or turned her away. Ethan shook his head sadly, saying the world had forgotten how to care for those who needed it most. That afternoon, Ethan drove into town to buy baby supplies, leaving Lena with the promise he'd be right back. When he returned, her eyes widened at the sight of bottles, formula, warm clothes, diapers, and a little knitted hat shaped like a tiny pumpkin. She hesitated before reaching out, her voice cracking as she whispered that no one had ever done something like this for her. Ethan simply smiled, saying the baby deserved everything good the world could offer. But just when peace seemed possible, trouble returned. As evening fell, a truck rolled up the dusty road, stopping at the gate. Lena froze, recognizing the headlights instantly. It was him, the baby's father, furious and wild-eyed, shouting her name. Panic surged through her as she clutched the baby tightly. Ethan's entire demeanor changed, becoming calm but fierce. He stepped outside, closing the door behind him, telling Lena to stay hidden. Through the window, she saw the confrontation unfolding. The man raged, demanding his family back, claiming Lena belonged to him and had no right to leave. Ethan stood firm, refusing to move aside. He told the man that Lena wasn't property and that no one here was going anywhere with him. When the man threatened violence, Ethan warned him that the police were already called. The man hesitated, shocked by Ethan's unshakable stance, then shouted one last threat before speeding away. Only after the truck disappeared did Ethan allow himself to exhale. When he stepped back inside, Lena's tears flowed uncontrollably. She kept apologizing, saying she never meant to bring danger to his home. Ethan gently wiped her tears, telling her he wasn't afraid and that protecting them was not a burden, it was a choice he made gladly. She realized then that she had finally found someone who didn't want anything in return, someone who cared purely because it was right. The police arrived shortly after, taking Ethan's statement and promising patrols near the property. Lena watched from the doorway, holding her baby, feeling a sense of safety she had never known. When the officers left, Ethan walked back inside and sat beside her. For a long moment, neither spoke. The crackling fire filled the room with soft warmth, and Lena finally whispered that she didn't want to run anymore. She wanted a place to stay, if he would let her. Ethan smiled softly, placing a reassuring hand over hers. He told her the words that would stay with her forever, "You're home now." Her breath caught as emotion overwhelmed her. No one had ever said that to her, not with kindness, not with truth. For the first time in years, she felt belonging settle into her bones. The baby gurgled happily, as if sensing the shift in their little world. Days passed, turning into weeks, and Lena slowly began to heal. She helped around the farm, laughing softly at the animals, learning routines, and growing stronger each day. Ethan found himself smiling more than he had in years. The house no longer felt empty. The walls echoed with gentle sounds, the baby's giggles, Lena humming while cooking, and the small moments that turned an old farmhouse into a home again. One cold evening, as snowflakes drifted outside, Ethan set the table for dinner. Lena placed the baby in a small wooden cradle Ethan had restored for him. When she looked up, she saw Ethan watching her with warmth that made her heart flutter. She thanked him again for everything, but he shook his head, saying he should be the one grateful, because she had brought life back into a place that had been silent for far too long. By Christmas, they had become a small family without ever defining it. Lena no longer looked over her shoulder. Ethan no longer ate meals alone. The baby had a warm crib, a safe home, and two adults who adored him. One snowy morning, Ethan found Lena hanging a small knitted stocking with the baby's name on it, and something inside him melted. He realized he didn't just want them to stay, he needed them too. On New Year's Eve, as fireworks crackled faintly in the distance, Ethan stood beside Lena on the porch, watching the night sky shimmer. She leaned against him, feeling warmth she had never known. He looked down at her and gently whispered that whatever future she wanted, he hoped she'd choose it here, with him. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they weren't from fear, they were from finally being loved. As midnight struck, Lena wrapped her arm around his and whispered the words he had waited to hear, that she wasn't going anywhere and that she had finally found her home. Ethan pulled her close, grateful for the strange Thanksgiving morning that had changed everything. And as the baby slept peacefully inside, wrapped in warmth and love, their new life truly began, with hope, healing, and a future none of them had dared to imagine.